Hi everyone, welcome to today's Q&A for House of Ho, a docuseries on the Ho family who came to the US as immigrants from Vietnam with almost nothing to their name, and within a span of a generation has built successful businesses and established roots in their Houston, Texas community. You can catch season 1 of House of Ho on December 10th, streaming on HBO Max, and feel free to join this conversation online with hashtag House of Ho HBO Max. My name is Wendy. I'm a fashion content creator at Wendy's Lookbook, a docu-series enthusiast, and especially appreciate seeing the journey of an Asian American and more so Vietnamese American family on screen. You know, I came to the US at 8, so I deeply believe in the American dream. So I'm so glad to have with us today Washington Ho, Judy Ho, and Lesley Ho, the second generation of the Ho family. You know, they're also joined by their showrunner and executive producer, Nick Lee, to give us a glimpse behind the scenes and what it means to have an Asian American family portrayed on screen. So let's welcome them, and we're so excited to have this chat today.
Less is more. You're definitely not a hoe.
Why?
More is more.
Stop, keep moving. Let me teach you how to swing. Hey, I got that good foot moving. Just gotta love the way I swing. Hey, girl, move, don't stop, keep moving.
You know, and I'm sure, you know, filming the show too brought all of you together a lot, and you probably spent so much time together, you know, from just the process of filming. What did you learn about each other that was different from what you knew of who you guys were already?
Well, I didn't learn anything new about Washington.
Well,
if anything, everything I already knew. I got to know Lesley a lot more because you know, we had the kids together, so I felt like I got to know her more as her mom and her parenting style, and it's very similar to mine. So, and then we got to go out on girls' night, so that was nice to let loose and just be with each other without Washington hovering over us, and just getting to know each other one-on-one.
Yeah, Judy was actually living with us during filming, half of the time. So,
did you learn
great.
about me, Lesley?
I learned a lot about you. I met Fun Judy during filming. Love Fun Judy.
Oh yeah, when Judy moved into our house, and then, you know, after a month or two, my wife would come into her. I'm like, you know, your sister, she's really cool. Like, I go, I told you that a long time ago. She goes, I thought she was like, you know, I go, everyone thinks that. She's not. I told you, she's very cool. It's just that people have to get away from that's Binh Ho's daughter. She looks very serious. And, you know, Judy's.
I'm serious.
Yeah, she's serious. Like, but if she doesn't like someone, she can't help the way she is, because
my face says it all.
Like my mom's face, right? You can just tell by the eye. It's the Asian girl, the eye. My wife's got the eye. Her mom's got the eye. I'm pretty sure you got the eye. So, you know, it's just great for, you know, what we did on TV. I think it really symbolizes the Asian female. You know, Asian girls. What you know, we talked about gender. You're talking about, you know, gender bias, right? I feel like, you know, when I go to Vietnam and I go back to the country, I feel like that is a big problem, right? I see a lot of, you know, that culture of the old school way. And I hope that this show inspires other people that it's okay to let your wife lead the way, because, you know, in our culture, you do business, you have money. It's kind of like a known fact over history that the man is allowed to go networking, you know, and do what he wants, and the lady is there taking care of the kids. And if she leaves, and then her name is, you know, divorce or Lee, and then she has nowhere to go. And so I hope that a lot of the females learn from, you know, my wife, my sister, that it's okay to, you know, cut it off and not have to suffer for the rest of your life and go find your thing, you know?
No, I think that's so well said, Washington. I think that you are also, all of you are leading by example, right? And that comes from how you basically interact with your kids and seeing how you empower them, and how Judy's choices are empowering her own discovery of her own self, of her happiness, of her love. And then there's Lesley trying to bond everyone together. And you see that takes a lot of strength to do that. You know, it's not a light endeavor to make sure that all of the families together and moving in a cohesive way. So we do see that from watching all of you in the show. So this is incredible that you mentioned that. You know, I think, and just piggybacking on that, I think Asian families and usually, you know, Vietnamese families are very reserved when it comes to sharing particular, you know, deeper side or darker issues, and especially one that can be perceived publicly, right? And you know, throughout the show, we learn more and more about your own struggles, your own triumphs, and deeper things that are very painful. Was there a conversation with your parents to say that there were certain things you're going to share and certain things you're going to share, and were they on board with kind of having all that be shown?
My parents thought this is a documentary about the American dream and rags to riches story. They had no idea this was a reality show, and the reality shows crave drama. They had no idea. But while they would hear what we were talking about, they're like, "Why are you talking about that?" And I'm like, "No, people want to hear the truth. You know, they want to hear about how you achieved everything, the American dream, and how we became the way we are today. But at the same time, they want to know how me, Washington, and Lesley are navigating life now as second generation children."
Right.
We went to Oklahoma last week for Thanksgiving and visited Lesley's mom. And over the course of the show, I was like, "Honey, like, have you like told your mom? You need to tell your mom, like, I'm so scared. Like, this is like, I do not want her to see this. Like, it's over. Like, because I always felt like it was already over. Because when you have an Asian mother-in-law, you're not doing the right thing. You just feel like the eye is coming at you, whether the energy and you know, when we came there, I was like, Mom, like, what'd you think about the trailer? She's like, she just gave me that look, you know, like, you know, that normal look she gives me. But I was like, what, was there something there that, you know, you didn't like? She goes, what, man, you know, man, could take like, like, you know, the part where I say, you know, yeah, my mother, you know, told me that if I marry my wife, that, you know, everything's fine. And I had to learn to love her daughter over time. I felt like finally me and your mom had a breaking point where she saw my struggle, and when we were filming the year before, and I came up there, and she goes, "You're not drinking? Like you?" And I go, "I'm done. I'm done." Yeah, why?
Struggled quite yet, because even when we were celebrating my parents' anniversary this past weekend, he had poured him a glass of champagne. And I kept nudging her. I said, he's not drinking. And she's like, oh, just one glass. It's okay. You know, because it's so much a part of our culture.
Yeah.
But so I really don't think, and again, you know, my family before the show was not aware of any issues we were having. You know, they live a state away. So I never wanted to bother them. And I guess also as a daughter of an, you know, immigrant parent, you don't want to disappoint them. Right. So that I didn't want to share any of that with them. And so this will be the first time they're seeing it firsthand without me calling them, crying, or talking to them about it. And so my mom knows a little bit, but I don't think she knows the full extent.
Oh, wow. That is so, I think there's also, when I'm hearing you share this, there's also a sense of feeling that you want to protect them too as well, right? And that, you know, that you want to make sure that they're in a great place and that they're enjoying this experience with you. And I think that comes a lot with kind of our relationship with our parents, and that we want to make sure that they're always in good hands because they've sacrificed so much for us. And now we don't want to necessarily sadden them in that sense, you know. But this is, I think, has this journey bonded you together as a family even stronger now?
If that's possible, yes.
I mean, yeah, I think we are a lot closer and a lot more comfortable around each other. And, you know, I understood how, you know, my sister felt, because when she moved into my home, I started having these visions like, I think my wife kind of feels the same way. And if I don't, you know, make some changes, I don't ever, you know, when I started driving her kids to school, I love them, and I just noticed a little difference. And when I looked at Roosevelt and Lincoln, I had to, you know, choose my family, and I'm proud of that. That was the best thing the show did for me. Was it gave me. Nick told us, he goes, "Wash, trust me, this show is gonna be therapeutic. You got to open up. You got to be open. Like you got to really, dig deep and be vulnerable." And I was like, vulnerable, because when you're Asian and you're male and vulnerability means weakness, right? Mm-hmm. I Googled it. I go, what? I kept asking, he keeps saying vulnerability. And like, he would have to push me so far where he goes, "Watch, dude, if you cry, man, it's an awkward moment." And I've tried to cry and he knows it. But like, it was just like this moment where, I started understanding what my wife would tell me before the show. Like, "Honey, I love when you're sober. Just kind of like, but when I'm sober, I'm not. I'm like, what do you like?" She goes, "You're normal." So you like when I just relax and chill? Like, do you like this? And she's like, "Yeah." I go, "What is sexy about this? I don't get it." And, so over time, I see this, my wife is slowly, getting back to that girl that met me and thought I was, this Prince Charming and, this guy that was going to help her make her dreams come true and have this great family. And I can't wait till, there comes that day where we can complete Mount Rushmore. We have Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and I love that last card, Nick. We're going to have a Jefferson for season. It's going to be good. Right?
Oh, no, that's...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're saving that for another season, I'm sure. So, I know that, you all of you filmed the show in 2019, right? And it was a different world at that stage, and it's a different world now, right? With 2020 now. And I think we're in the middle of a pandemic as well. So I think there's a stronger emphasis on physical and mental health that it wasn't before. And unfortunately, with the pandemic too, millions of Americans suffer from job loss. So has 2020 shaped kind of your views on health, on wealth, on relationships in general?
For sure. Absolutely. I feel like being Asian and, the pandemic going on and living in America, my sister, had an incident where, our local grocery store and, that was tough. Oh. Seeing people lose jobs is tough. Seeing people lose their business. It just actually made me understand vulnerability and empathy, and watching the news every day. And my wife would be downstairs because she didn't get a day off, and I would just watch the news. And after filming and just the filming, I was educated on this might sound like, kind of weird that I learned at this age, but like seeing what my sister went through, and then seeing my wife and how hurt she was. I had never been sober and seen that because I would numb myself. I didn't want to see my wife like that. So being sober over the course of the pandemic, it also made me not want to go back to where I was, but it made me think more about, human beings and that, my life, no matter how bad I thought it was and the shame I had was totally like out of like I should never, beat myself up because I can't be like my dad, or I can't be that Asian guy that can control his drinking and have a great business.
Well, I think we were really lucky during the pandemic that we lived so close, and it really emphasized for us that the time that we have now, that what really matters is that we have our family, we cherish these times, and it put everything stopped. Like our kids are in 1,000 extracurricular activities, they're in school all day, they have tutoring, and all of a sudden everything stopped, and they were home with us, and we were able to focus on what matters most. And when everything started opening up again, And it was so hard for Lesley. She's working to homeschool her kids. So they would come to my house and I would run a daycare out of my home. And I was like, how are working moms doing this? And I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. And I was like, I'm going crazy trying to teach these kids and trying to hold it all together while the news that's coming out is so scary. And I just like, we really need to prioritize like women and work and balancing that and giving us opportunities to do it all. Because right now, I just feel like it's an impossible choice with kids and how like Leslie's schedule is. And if we didn't have each other to help each other in these times, I don't know how we would do it.
Yeah, because Lesley, you're a pharmacist, right, Lesley? So were you working through the pandemic?
I was working overtime during the pandemic. So our company, you know, it's our busy season right now. So I was working overtime and the kids were at home. So I would try to homeschool them after 5 and it just wasn't, you know, I don't know how people do it. So I would send them over to Judy's. So it was like, well, Judy, you're, you know, Roosevelt and Truman are in the same class. So luckily I was like, you know, Judy, just take all the kids. And she sat there with workbooks and ran a daycare for me. And I picked them up after work. So it worked for us. But I was going to say, during the pandemic, I felt like, you know, it made us really reflect on our lives and how blessed we are. You know, I saw, we had for my company itself, like there were people that lost their jobs, you know, and I was lucky to still have mine. So, you know, I know Washington had brought home, you know, some pastors that, you know, were out of work because the churches were closed. And he had given them, you know, odd jobs around our house to do. And I know I've heard of some Vietnamese families that have also lost their jobs or just immigrated from Vietnam. And so I was donating clothes and toys to the children, you know, who didn't have anything. Their parents weren't making any money. They didn't have clothes. They didn't have socks. So I felt like it really made me reflect on how blessed we truly are, you know, to have not only family, but to have jobs during this time. And, you know, a good way for us to give back because we can.
Nick, I wanted to throw this back at you. You know, what were your takeaways from filming from season 1? You know, if the audience is about to embark on this journey with the House of Hoes, what would you want them to see and learn and really stew on?
Well, what I think is most amazing in terms of the presentation, our show, what it turned out to be, is that this is, you know, an incredibly tight, accomplished Asian family that had a lot to lose, and let these cameras into their home. And in the beginning, you know, I think that their instinct was to be very guarded, and culturally, I know that. You know, their family was not ones to just kind of talk about their problems and air out their dirty laundry, but they soon kind of saw the opportunity. I think, like they do most opportunities, as one that they wanted to make the best of, and they started to realize that they had an opportunity to connect with one another like they hadn't before. I walked away from a scene one day with Judy and her mom, and she's like, I haven't spoken to my mom like that in years, you know, and I was so stunned to hear it. But watching that evolution and watching all of the family members open up, and I think Judy's love for Nate inspired us all. I often equate it to like a hot air balloon. Started lifting above, and it motivated all of us. But Lesley and Wash found their kind of, you know, truth, and mom and dad, Binh and Wei, were fearless also. So my takeaway, and what I hope that the viewers find value in, is a remarkable family that is really fearless and was willing to take a leap of faith, knowing that the strength of their bond and connection would be enough to hold them together, and it was. And anyway, it was an incredible journey, and I hope people enjoy watching them take the leap.
Nick, can you confirm or deny there was acting on the show, like Washington said?
You know what? The only acting didn't make the final edit. So
is what?
The only acting didn't make the final edit. We would only.
Well, having Aunt Tina on the show and how she was, you could only help but, like, you know, I would just think, like, you know what, honey, like, why can't we just be like her? Like, just be ourselves, be fun, and you know? She's like, but honey, like, what's my mom going to think? And when I'm like, who cares what she's going to think? Like we have to share our story with the world. And that's the only way we can get better. And since we had been in, you know, couples counseling for, you know, prior to the show, you know, and my wife likes to save money, I said, look, it's free therapy. And I think it's really helped Lesley and I, like Nick said, you know, when you see Judy, like, do what she did and open up, we felt like, let's follow her lead. She looks so happy. And once we did it, we're like, oh my God, like, you know, what's this person going to think and what's that? And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, we have each other. And my wife tells me she'll never leave me. And, you know, she reminds me that she would never give up on her family. And she reminds me that, look, we went through it. You had 1 year of sobriety. I'm so proud of you. And don't worry about the past and what people think. Just know that I'll always be here with you. And so that's the best thing that ever happened on the show. Yeah.
I think witnessing your truth for all of you was incredibly inspirational, for at least for me as a viewer. And we were just all rooting for you and wanting more from it and wanting to be with you on your second journey. So given that, like, well, what is next for the Ho family?
You know, one thing I just want to throw in there, I would love for you to know, those people that love the show, is that the whole experience was very authentic. I will answer my version of your question in a moment, but we entered the show and really were as authentic as we could and tracked the characters. But it was like Judy, when we first started the show, we just thought she was single and she was kind of going through a divorce, which she was. And it wasn't until she got comfortable at like episode 2 where she pulled me aside and she was like, I kind of owe you an update. I'm in love. And I was like, what? And it was something that she had shared with her family. And it was because she was so guarded about it. And that came out in real time on the show. And the same goes for Lesley and Washington along the way. So my journey was one of surprises that continued to pop up. There were these amazing truths. And so I wanted you to watch the show to know that there was no staging these things or timing them out. You'll notice that, like in episode 3, I think is when we meet Nate. And that was the way that it happened for us as well, you know? So anyway, you guys can answer what's happening in season 2, but I think that we will all be learning, not unlike season 1, as we go.
Yep.
So wait, am I hearing you correct, Nick? There's going to be a season 2?
You know, I don't have, I can't confirm or deny. I don't have the power to I would love nothing more for us all to have the chance to do that. So we'll have to see how things play out.
And Wendy, you know, we're also very humbled and are appreciative that, you know, you found our truth and you gave us a chance, and hopefully the rest of the world does. And remember that there's one thing that, you know, we'd like for you to, and the viewers to take from the show is that in the day, your family is, you know, right in front of you and the best you got, and love always wins.
No, absolutely. And I think it's such an incredible example that you're showing through it, through your own world, you know, through your own truth, through your own worldview, and your just pursuit of love and of hard work. And, you know, and thank you for sharing that with us, with your family. So thank you for, you know, I think reigniting the American dream, much needed during this time too as well. But thank you so much for watching, to all those who are tuning in, and just special thanks, you know, to Judy, Washington, and Lesley for your time, and more importantly, for your honesty. You know, thank you so much, Nick, for showcasing the strength and spirit of the American dream. And for our audience with Asian roots or otherwise, I bet you have a lot to chew on from meeting Washington, Judy, and Lesley in the first docuseries on an Asian American family. So we can continue this conversation online with the hashtag House of Ho HBO Max, and watch the luxurious, fashionable, and charismatic House of Ho on HBO Max. I wish you a wonderful evening and thank you so much for watching.